Good evening and welcome to tonight's driver's ed class, class number 14, the last class before the final. So we will wait for people to log in. I appreciate everybody's attentiveness to being on time and doing these remote classes. I know it's difficult. I'm going to turn down stuff here a little bit loud. There we go. So we'll wait for everybody to log on. Good evening, good evening. There's all the names popping up. That's what I like to see. So last night I told you that I wanted you to do the accident report that New Hampshire requires. I think I only received about 5 of them. So there's a lot of you that still owe me last night's homework. Okay? Remember, your last half hour of class is to ask questions, to do your reading, to do your homework. Okay, you will not receive your paperwork if I do not have what I need. Okay, this is not very difficult. To do that accident report should have taken you probably 15 minutes max. Okay, since half of it you should already know, your name, your address. Making up that information should not take you up a lot of time. Really, the thing that I really wanted you to do more than anything is to find out from your parents, who do you have your insurance with? Okay, the last half hour, 40 minutes of last night's class was dealing with insurance. It is something that you're going to have to deal with at some point in your life. So we might as well start right now that you're getting ready to be a licensed driver. So hopefully, when the time comes and your parents aren't, looking over your shoulder all the time and making sure you do the right thing, you're going to remember some of these things about how to fill out these forms, how to utilize these apps, and how to process the information to get your car repaired after a crash. Tonight's topic, we're going to start off with driving on the highway. Let me get out of the music here a little bit. Okay, I'll just get right out of it. And after we talk about the highway, then we're going to get right into what are some of the other roadway users that we have to contend with when we're out on the road. Now, the first part we'll be dealing with tractor trailers, then we're going to deal with motorcycles, then bicycles, then pedestrians, and then lastly, what do we do with emergency vehicles that are responding to crashes and tickets and things like that off to the side. So I think we've got just about everybody here, just about. Remember to sign in on your phone. So I've got, remember, that is your attendance. I've got a couple of people that are lacking good attendance, and that does count for something with completing driver's ed. They want you to be here. So let's get right into driving on the highway. Now, when you do any type of reading, whether it be in the manual or the textbook, and some of you have started to hand back the textbook. So remember, if you're driving tomorrow, please bring the textbook when you come to drive. There are different terminologies about what people or what states use to explain what is an expressway. So we're going to take for a moment, what are the differences, what makes them kind of different, what makes them kind of alike, and why do I need to know this? And how can I be a better driver out on the roadway, knowing that I'm on some of these different types of roadways? So the terminology that we find listed in the manual are interstates, toll roads, thoroughways, turnpikes, and freeways. So we have 5 different terms: interstates, toll roads, thoroughways, turnpikes, freeways. So what I'd like you to write down, the very bottom bullet, what makes them different is speed. Some you'll go 65, 70, 75 miles per hour. Some you'll never, ever go above 55. And a lot of people that drive with me will ask me, well, what is the minimum speed? Okay, the minimum speed on the highway is 45. Now, could you have a highway where it's 50 all the time? Yeah, possibly. Possibly. But I find to truly get the designation of a highway, you have to have on ramps and off ramps. Okay, so don't always consider, like, I wouldn't consider Route 155 going from Madbury to Dover. It's 50 for about 3 miles, 4 miles. I wouldn't constitute 155 as a highway, even though you get to go 50 miles per hour. Route 4, I considered a highway. Going from Durham to Lee, we do have on ramps and off ramps. But once you go from Durham to Portsmouth, you really don't have any more on ramps or off ramps. Or really, when you get towards Nottingham and Northwood, you don't have any ramps. So there's just a section of Durham that is considered a highway stretch. Lanes will probably, when you see the roads, toll roads and turnpikes, there's a good chance you're going to have oncoming traffic. All right, so write that down. Toll roads and turnpikes, there's a good chance you're going to have oncoming traffic. The Spalding Turnpike, which goes from Portsmouth all the way up to Milton, New Hampshire, there's a good portion of the turnpike that will have oncoming traffic. Now, when you deal with interstates, thoroughways, and freeways, you're looking at probably minimum of 3 lanes, could go as high as 6 or 7. And you're going to have your faster speeds. And most of these roads will take you out of your state. The Spalding Turnpike is only in New Hampshire. Toll roads, same thing. You may only have it in a particular state. When you leave the state, then it's going to be a totally different road. The nice thing about money, okay, and I made this PowerPoint presentation many, many years ago. It was way before Easy Pass. And Easy Pass now makes it so easy, it's funny how they've used that term, to just get onto a roadway and not worry about finding money in your pocket or your purse to allow you to drive that stretch of the roadway. Now, the question that a lot of people ask is, wonder if I don't have an Easy Pass transponder on my windshield, what happens? Well, they do have cameras, and what they do is they take a picture of your license plate, like what we talked about with photo enforcement. They'll take a picture of your license plate, and they'll send a fee to the address on the registration. So if you don't have it, it usually costs you a little bit more than if you would have had the Easy Pass transponder on your windshield. Now, the nice thing about being on the highway, it gets you to where you want to go a lot quicker. You have a better chance of being there, getting there safely. But the only problem is, because of the high speed, you have to think quicker. You have to react faster. And if you do have a problem, if you do make a mistake, it is usually pretty bad. Okay, the crashes that you have on a highway are brutal. I mean, it will take your life if you're not, depending on how you get hit and if you have your seatbelt on or airbags in the car. But it is by far the worst type of crash to have because of the high speed that you're traveling. Any type of rollover, but that's the reason why they try to get traffic going in the same direction, because it eliminates the head-on. The only time that you get a head-on is if your car spins out on an interstate and you get turned around so you're facing oncoming traffic now and then get hit. So that does happen every once in a while in bad weather. You do need to know some of this terminology. Like I said, a lot of questions from last night and tonight will be on the on the final for tomorrow. So hint, write down these 3 definitions. First one is controlled access, limited access. All that means is on-ramps and off-ramps. I wish they would just call it on-ramps and off-ramps. on ramps and off ramps, because people do get confused. I will tell you right now, a lot of times when people hear controlled access, they think of alcohol, they think of drugs. Okay, controlled access has nothing. Now, controlled drugs deals with having your license suspended or revocated, but controlled access deals with highway availability, getting on and getting off. Now, in interchange, as we see from this picture, we have I believe, like 6 major roads that are coming into this little section. And I don't know what city this is, but a interchange takes you either north, south, or east or west. So an interchange is going to change the position of your vehicle and where it's headed. So you have to go either underneath a bridge or you're on top of the bridge. And usually you're going to have what we call a clover leaf that is taking you in a different direction. So you've got to remember that no matter which direction that you're heading, if you were to spin the car around 180 degrees, you are now going the opposite direction. So if you're heading west, on the other side of the road, they're going east. If you're heading south, the other side of the road is going north. If they want you to go east or west, they're going to have to take you off that road by putting you on an interchange. All right? So let's take a look. One of the most dangerous things to do, and this is the one thing I do not take you out to learn how to do. I have not had anybody from this class that has completed a pass. All of you have done a lane change. Basically, passing is a lane change where you drive further up the road to move back over. So really, passing is just a lane change, but usually with oncoming traffic coming towards you. So let's take a look at how do you complete a pass.
Another common maneuver is passing in the lane of oncoming traffic. It's common, but it's not always safe and must be done cautiously.
It becomes a danger because of the judgment factors that we don't judge distance very well.
The problem is twofold. It's hard to tell how long it's going to take to accelerate to get past the car we're trying to pass. And it's hard to tell how close the car is in the oncoming lane and how fast that car is traveling towards you.
It's risky business because drivers have a hard time judging that dynamic movement.
If you do plan to pass, keep this in mind. An oncoming car or truck does not seem to be traveling as fast as it really is. Here's a good rule of thumb. If an oncoming car is far enough away that it does not seem to be moving at all, then it is generally far enough away for you to safely make your pass. But if you can see that oncoming car is moving, then it's a different story.
If you go out there to look and you see that car looks like it's moving towards you, you better tuck back in again because you're probably too close.
There are other times when it is not safe to pass. If your view is blocked by either a hill or a curve, don't pass. Assume there is an oncoming car or truck just out of sight. Passing requires extreme caution because of the threat of having a head-on collision.
When you talk about having a head-on collision, you're talking about doubling and tripling the forces, and maybe the forces even quadruple, depends on your speed and the nature of the car coming towards you.
Also, avoid passing at intersections. This includes intersecting roads, railroad crossings, even entrances to shopping centers. If you are on a 2-lane road, pass only on the left. It is dangerous and usually illegal to pass on the right. The exception is when a car ahead of you signals to make a left turn. If the car in front of you is stopped to make a left-hand turn, never pass to his left. Instead, you may pass to his right on the shoulder. In any event, experts urge drivers to not take passing lightly. It's a common driving task that requires utmost caution. This is Jim Angelo.
By the way, that last little segment of how to pass, I don't think they should have allowed a passing on it looked like a little bit of a creek, and it had a bridge that they were passing on, and there was guardrails on either side. I don't think that's a very safe place to pass. Passing is where you, if anything goes wrong, you're going to be able to go to the paved breakdown lane or to the soft shoulder. But with those guardrails, it just isn't, going to allow you to do that. The one thing I do want you to remember, and write this down in your notes, will help you out for tomorrow. The best way to know when to come back after passing somebody, because you don't need to do a shoulder check anymore. What you need to do is check your rear view mirror, and if you can see both headlights, the front grille of the car you've just passed, you're far enough in front of that vehicle that you can move back to the right. So you don't have to look over your shoulder or look in your right side mirror. It is tricky to do a pass with oncoming cars. When you're on a highway, like going from Portsmouth to, or from Durham to Portsmouth, going over the bridge, when you make a lane change and go by somebody and go back to your original, it's somewhat like a pass, but it really is still, I consider, a lane change. I consider when you have oncoming cars coming towards you and you know you got to get back. And by the way, you got to get back in within 200 feet. That's the law in New Hampshire. 200 feet is a little bit less than a football field. You've got to get back to your original lane. What are some of the special features that we may find on a highway? Now, all major highways, or all roadways, actually, for that matter of fact, will have reflectors. Now, in your notes, what I want you to write down, reflectors help you at night in bad weather conditions. So at times, you're not going to see your road markings. You're not going to see the center line. You're not going to see the white edge line. So the reflectors will always match the color of the line on the side of the road that you're driving on. So when you're on a highway, the reflectors will be yellow way over to the left on the guardrail. On the right-hand side, they're going to be white, matches the color of the lines. Now, on the right-hand side, you're going to see two different colors every once in a while when you're driving. One of them is green, one of them is red. So what I want you to write down, a red reflector, when you see it up ahead, is at the beginning of a guardrail or something that's not movable, something that you do not want to strike. At the end of the guardrail will be a green reflector. These reflectors also come in handy to people that are plowing. So think about it. If there's enough of a snowbank on a deep, deep, heavy snow, there's a good chance that the guy that's plowing doesn't know where the edge of the pavement is. So he needs to know where those white reflectors are, and the red and the green where there's going to be a guardrail or something that he doesn't want to hit with the plow, so he can continue on and plow the roadway. Rumble strips will be on either side of the roadway depending on the type of road you're driving on. Basically, it's just alerting you that you are no longer in the lane positioned correctly. And it's going to cause the steering wheel to shake a little bit. I don't think it's really good for people that are falling asleep. Rumble strips are more for people that are just awake but maybe texting or talking to somebody and drifting. A person that is really being lulled to sleep, once they hit the rumble strip, their first reaction is to jerk the wheel. That's not necessarily what you want to do. It's just a gentle turn of the wheel to get you repositioned in your lane. So be very careful when you see people drifting, because you don't know, are they distracted or is this a person that's actually falling asleep and then they're going to jerk the wheel? We've already talked about Easy Pass, so we're not going to kind of get into that anymore. So there's a mile marker. Oh, I forgot to mention that, a mile marker. A mile marker basically tells you how many miles that the road has taken you. So when you head north, the mile markers get higher. When you head south, they get lower. When you go west, they go lower. When you go east, they go higher. And one of the benefits of a mile marker, think about it. If you were to break down on an interstate, and you can see this roadway right here, there's no place, you'd have to walk for quite a distance to find an off-ramp. We can see a parking lot way off to the right. Might not be bad to go down there, but mile markers will alert people, police, and tow trucks where your location on the road is. And mile markers will always be every 0.2 of a mile. So this one is at the beginning, 87. The next mile marker you will see will be 87.2. Then the next one, 87.4. So 0.2 of a mile. So you don't have to walk too far. So you just call up the police, say I'm on the Spalding Turnpike, I'm at mile marker 14. They're going to be able to tell exactly where you are. If you were just to call and say I'm on Spalding, That goes like 36 miles, I believe, the Spalding Turnpike from Portsmouth up to Milton, or maybe it's a little higher than that. So they're not going to know exactly where you're located. Now with GPS and stuff like that, they could probably track phones now a little bit more precisely. So that's helpful. We've already talked about Easy Pass. Easy Pass. Why do we have toll booths? That's a good question. Why do they charge you money to be on a roadway? Why don't they charge you for just going from Durham to Dover? It's maintenance. It's maintenance for the roadway. It's money goes towards probably state police for monitoring what's going on. It's a tax. Bottom line, it's a tax. What pays for the roadways in Durham, Madbury, Lee, Dover? It's a tax that you pay your town or city. But because we've got so many people from out of state, this is a way to collect money to go into the general fund for the state of New Hampshire. And actually, long time ago, you'd be surprised to hear this, some of the money that was collected through tolls used to go to students to take driver's ed. They used to give driver's ed programs for every student that went through the program. They would give them, a certain amount of money to keep the cost of driver's ed down. They don't do that anymore. They've taken that away. And that's why it is so costly now to take a driver's ed program. Watch for your signs, especially if you're hauling a U-Haul, any type of trailer, because it's not going to be your typical fee. So the number of axles that you have in a car will increase the cost that you have to pay to go through. And by the way, bridges, very, very expensive. Very, very expensive. I think someone told me going through New York City on 95 to head south to go to Florida, I think going over the George Washington Bridge, which is also part of Interstate 95, I think it's like $18 to $20 one way to go over the bridge. Can you imagine taking that bridge to work every day? It's costing you close to $40 just to get to work. $18, $20 to get into work, $18 to $20 to get out. That's insane. That's why public transportation is so popular in major cities. All right, let's talk about the hardest part about driving on the highway. It's not being on the highway and going the speed and keeping your position. It's getting on. And most of you have, I think I've got probably at least 75% of you have already done a highway lesson with me. So I like to take you to a ramp and we work on making our rear mirror check, side mirror check, shoulder check, signal, and then we merge out into a road. It's like a lane change. So if you can do a lane change in Durham and Dover at around 20, 25 miles per hour, then getting onto the highway is going to be so much easier. The hardest part is that your speed is so fast that you got to think quickly. So when you look in your mirror, you got to say, yeah, I see my opening. It's between the red car and the blue car. Or no, I have no place to go. So I've got to slow down quite a bit and let 5 cars go by, and then I have an opening. So you have to make that judgment very quickly and then know what to do with your vehicle, with speed, whether it be increase speed, maintain, or go slower. So let's go through what to do to get on to the highway. Know your ramp. So remember, everything goes opposite. So when I take you on Route 4, sometimes we go east, sometimes we go west. Keep your speed while looking for a hole in traffic. Do not stop on the ramp unless it's absolutely necessary. Okay, so judge what you have behind you when you look in your rearview mirror. And you usually start checking your rearview mirror when you're at your yield sign. Here's a big one, okay? Remember this. Hint, hint. Allow traffic to make room for you. Now, why would traffic make room for you? Because you want to get on the highway. And they're going to make room for you because you're going highway speed. Nobody wants a slow driver to go in front of them because they don't know how long you're going to be on the highway. So you see your gap. Increase your speed. Don't slow down or stop unless you absolutely, absolutely have to. I will tell you, people will eventually when you get to the end of the ramp, even though you're going somewhat slow, they will let you out. Okay, they will let you into the lane. Be careful of blended lanes. This is what a blended lane is. It's where you have getting off the highway where people are getting on the highway at the same stretch. So there's a portion of the roadway that does both things. It allows you to go slow to get off and allows people to go fast because they're getting on. It's usually, write this down, it's usually under a bridge. When you take a look at a bridge, you're approaching a bridge on a highway, you'll see a ramp that is coming, kind of curving like a circle that's coming onto your high portion of the highway. That's their on-ramp. It's also a blended lane because when you go underneath the bridge, that's where you're going to be getting off. So they're getting on before the bridge, you're getting off just after the bridge. So let's take a look. Oh, know the steps. Excuse me. You speed up on the ramp to 35, 45 miles per hour. Check your rear view mirror, check your side view mirror. Check your blind spot. And then signal to get on. All right? Let's take a look how to merge on a highway.
It can be a high anxiety situation. You're trying to enter the freeway. Cars on the freeway are whizzing by. You're trying to keep an eye on the cars in front of you. Drivers in the cars behind you are eager for their chance to merge. It can be chaotic, and you're the one at the gate.
Actually, a merge is probably one of your highest risk maneuvers that you do as a driver.
Dr. Terry Klein with Eastern Kentucky University is a leading authority on driving safety and an expert on traffic rules.
It's really a rather tricky maneuver because what we're asking you to do as a driver is pay attention to both the things happening in front of you, the things happening behind you, and the things happening 2 lanes to your left or 2 lanes to your right.
Dr. Klein says this complicates things because as human beings, we can really pay strict attention to only one thing at a time. So as tense as it may be, you've got to learn how to merge if you want to enter a freeway.
The bottom line is that you have to prepare for a merge sooner.
Dr. Klein says to prepare for a merge well before you're actually ready to merge. Identify a gap between cars on the freeway where you can merge. Then, continue increasing your speed until you reach the gap you selected. Dr. Klein says instead of increasing speed, drivers have a tendency to actually slow down before merging. A big mistake.
You have cars behind you coming up, they're trying to enter speed themselves, so you could cause a chain reaction type collision behind you as well.
Dr. Klein says drivers tend to minimize the dangers in merging, and that there are actually more crashes that happen during merging than during passing.
Once on the freeway, adjust your speed to keep a cushion of space around your car.
The closer you get to a car around you, the more they drive you and the less you driving yourself. You become their puppet. They brake, you brake. They speed up, you speed up. They stop suddenly, you stop suddenly.
Finally, once you've merged and adjusted your speed, you probably will change lanes at some point. Some quick pointers. Look around you for a large enough space to move into. Use your mirrors. Turn your head to look quickly to the side before changing lanes. Then make your lane change. Changing lanes, keeping space around your car, and merging. Each is a critical task in our driving experience.
So it is somewhat complicated, but the more practice that you do with merging, the easier it does get. Getting off a highway is the easiest thing. You have to know which ramp you're taking, so make sure that you use your directional 500 feet before you get off the highway. Check your rearview mirror, see if anybody's coming off the highway with you. Keep speed till you get to the mouth of the deceleration lane, so you really don't want to be braking on the main part of the highway. And then at the bottom of the ramp, just kind of know which direction you want to go. If you're going right at the bottom of the ramp, there's a good chance you're going to have a yield sign. If you make a left-hand turn, guaranteed, it's a stop. So don't pick up too much speed going down the ramp if you're going to be making a left turn, because you're going to have to bring that speed down for that stop before you pull out onto the main road. Tips for survival, being on the highway. Don't get lazy with your driving. Be alert. Don't fool around with your phone. Don't fool around with the radio. When you do go by somebody to pass them, make sure there's enough room to complete everything that you need to do. Try not to tailgate people. Don't get too close. You should still have 4 seconds of a following distance behind the person in front of you. Now, notice the car has a good distance from that large tractor trailer. There's a good chance maybe the blue car that's just to the right in that lane doesn't like the red vehicle or the red truck, and he kind of moves back between you and the tractor trailer. Just back off the distance from the blue car if he gets into that space. Create another 4-second following distance. Always use turn signals for lane changes and getting off. Always use turn signals. But make sure they get turned off after you've completed whatever you've done. Go the flow of traffic. Now, here a lot of people say, well, wonder if everybody's going above the speed limit. Find a lane. Notice there's 4 lanes in this picture. Maybe the third lane's not the best. Maybe the lane behind the yellow car or the blue car. There could be a little bit of a slower speed there. So find a lane that is comfortable. They will give you some fluctuation like I do. Being on the highway, the police aren't going to pull over every single person that's above the speed limit. You know that's not true because everybody on the highway is not going the speed limit. So find a lane that is comfortable for speed and following distance. If you're tired, make sure that you pull over the side of the road, get the rest, because highway driving does get monotonous. It does get tiring. And I'm sure all of you at some point in your life, your parents have taken you for a long trip. And when you're in a car for 4 or 5, 6 hours, it's brutal. It does cramp your legs up, your neck. Get out. Find a rest area. Get out for about 15, 20 minutes. Walk around, get something to drink, something to eat, and then get right back behind the wheel of the car. It'll be a lot better. You'll be a better driver. That's for sure. Be careful what you follow because sometimes people don't strap things down well from construction trucks or people. Here's a case of a mattress that came off, and notice it says fatality. So we know that somebody lost their life in this situation. It's a shame because someone's carelessness of strapping something down, it hit a car. Could have gone right into the window, and maybe it was head trauma, or maybe the car spun out. It looks like the car is tipped on its side, so that could be where the fatality was. But stuff like this should not happen. And by the way, I have been in the car with this driving student, and we have seen this happen. We have seen a mattress come off a vehicle. Now, granted, we were back about 5 or 6 cars, so it happened way up in front of us, but you should have seen all the cars in front of us start to, go left and right and try to slow down a little bit because it took everybody by surprise. Following distance should be the 4 seconds, like I said. Remember the no zone. This is an area, and we're going to see this in the next segment when we talk about tractor trailers. So you could write this down. No zone is a blind spot area that you should not be traveling in next to a large truck. Okay, yes, it's a blind spot, but they're saying no zone is no traveling. You're passing through blind spots. You're not driving in blind spots. That's what a no zone is. It's not for driving. It's passing through. I'll show it to you.
There are hundreds of thousands of truck accidents every year. Driving a vehicle this size, that's a tough job. Imagine trying to stop 80,000 pounds going 55 miles an hour. That tempting space trucks leave in front of them, well, it's there because they need it. When you cut in front of a truck, you're taking that buffer room away, which leaves them no space to stop, which is a really bad idea. Driving too closely behind a truck isn't safe either. A tractor trailer blocks a huge part of your view, making it hard to see what's up ahead. If they have to stop, your only warning is their brake lights, and sometimes that's just not enough. So always allow room for the truck zone, and give yourself a few extra seconds of space in front of or behind them. Remember the truck zone when you're on the road, and don't forget to share the safety with your friends and family.
Okay, so that's the area that you do not want to be driving in for any long period of time. So let's talk about circles and roundabouts or rotaries. What we're trying to do is to allow traffic to move more smoothly and to get more traffic through a particular point or intersection on the roadway where traffic lights tend to make things back up. Rotaries, roundabouts, circles, they basically all mean the same thing. Everything goes counterclockwise. The big difference is the difference between a circle and a rotary or roundabout is speed. So rotary, roundabout are lower speeds, and traffic circles like the Portsmouth one is a little bit higher about going around. You can take a look. This is a picture that was in Europe. Of course, Europe does things opposite that we do, like driving on the left side of the road, and here they're driving clockwise rather than counterclockwise. But what I liked about the picture is that they actually had arrows indicating what lane you should be in to get on or to get off of the circle. In New Hampshire here, the only thing we do, we don't have arrows on the pavement. We have arrows and diagrams on signs as you approach. So as you approach, you've got to put yourself in a position to get around the Lee circle, or Lee rotary, I should say, to the point that will get you there safely. So if you're going to get off at the first exit or second exit, you're going to be in the right lane. If you're going to go the second, third, or all the way around, do a 360, you have to be in the left lane. And that diagram is on a green sign. So here is the Lee roundabout here. Okay, let me show you a video. I'll probably talk above it so you can see it. Whoop, that's a tunnel. Nope, don't want that. Let's do this. There we go. All right, so they do have arrows as you approach, but once you're in the circle, well, they do have them. They're just all worn out now. We don't see them anymore. So they do have them right at the beginning of the circle. But once you're in it, and notice that everybody's kind of going nice and slow and yielding correctly. I think they knew that they were being videotaped by a drone that day. But here's where we're finding that when we have a signal at a intersection, delay is much, much greater, and you have less of a delay. So we have fluid motion. It's always hard when you're around some of these large trucks too. So be very careful when you get off, and you'll have yield signs as you approach. So that's telling you that you've got to look to the left right now. So this blue car, see, both blue cars, the light blue car wants to get off, so he's coming out on the left lane. And the darker blue car was going to stay in the right lane, and they didn't understand what the cars. This is why it's so important to use your signal. So use your signal to get off right here. He's going all over the place. I wish I could get the audio for this, but for when I taped it, it didn't come through for whatever reason. But they will have signs like this prior to the circle to let you know where to get off. Let's take a look at tunnels. Now, we don't have tunnels that often. Well, we don't have them in New Hampshire, but we do have them in Massachusetts. So driving through a tunnel, I want you to write down these things. First thing is understand it's going to be dark, so you're going to need to have your lights on. Take your glasses off if they're sunglasses, or if they're tinted. Be careful with that. Use your side mirrors more, because it does get a little bit claustrophobic. People do have a tendency to move a little bit too far to the left or too far to the right because they get kind of spooked. So know your position, know your speed, and realize that there are exits. Surprisingly enough, who would think that you're going underneath the ground and there's going to be ways to get out of the tunnel before you get all the way through? So there are off-ramps in Boston in the tunnel. So I took a picture when I went to visit my daughter. My wife was driving. So I took out my phone and took a picture of the tunnel. So let's take a look at the tunnel here. So here we are. We've got 4 lanes. See, there's an exit right here. See, you could have gotten off right here, exit 23. So I would not have been in the appropriate lane to take that exit. So now I know we've got 2 lanes going off to the right. Recommended speed is 35 because it's a yellow speed limit sign. We have another exit here. So I'm in the best lane. Really, the middle lane's the best. Now, we're going to be getting off. We're taking Route 1 back to New Hampshire, so we're heading north right now. If we continued on with this video, you would have seen that I would have stayed in this lane and made a left bend on the exit coming up to get us on to the Tobin Bridge, and then heading Route 1 through Saugus. So that's handling a tunnel. So if you go to Boston, you're gonna be doing that quite a bit. All right, let's talk about sharing the road with other roadway users. So tractor trailers, motorcycles, bicycles, and pedestrians. Now, we're not going to talk about distracted driving right now. So I'm going to be coming back to that a little bit later. But let's talk about tractor trailers, because we did talk about not being next to them in a roundabout because it's so small. Be very careful when you're next to them on a highway. They're very big, so knowing their characteristics will sometimes help you stay out of situations that could get really bad really, really quickly. They're long, 120 feet long, 80,000 pounds. They're going to, of course, be less if they've got an empty trailer in the back, but when they're fully loaded, they are super heavy. That's why it takes them so long to stop. So if you're driving at 55 next to a car, both of you are going to stop probably within 300 feet, 360 feet at 55 miles per hour, but a tractor trailer will go well over 1,000 feet, closer to 1,500 feet in order to stop a full load. Also need to know when they're driving in the city, they make wide turns. This is why I make you do wide turns into perpendicular parking spots. It's the same principle that your car cannot turn, the radius of your car is not able to take that turn correctly without making some type of a sway out into the left and then turning sharply to the right. So tractor trailers are going to be a lot more obvious on their swing out. It's going to be more prevalent that they're going to be going into somebody else's lane for a little bit before they make that turn. Once the green light starts, don't beep your horn. They do start pretty slow, and then they kind of creep up with their speed. And we've already talked about the no zones, but let me show you the no zones one last time. And this was a driver's ed program, I believe in Georgia, that had Walmart come out to the high school, and in the parking lot, they set up a tractor trailer. In New Hampshire, they've done this in the past. I don't think they're doing it right now. I think they may probably start it again in the summertime, but because of COVID last summer, I didn't know anybody that utilized this training. But I have known some of my fellow driver's ed instructors that have utilized this, day with a tractor trailer driver. So they take you out into a parking lot and they go over a lot of this stuff. But this is the closest that I've come with getting any type of a tractor trailer to come to Oyster River. So this is what it looks like. This is their on-site, hands-on practice with tractor trailers.
No zone, that's an area around a large commercial vehicle where we have trouble seeing cars and vehicles that's in close proximity. And the idea of this program is to share this knowledge with individuals that may not understand that we have difficulty seeing cars that are maybe right beside us. Never assume that a truck driver can see you. Make sure that you see the truck driver's face, make sure he sees you. If you find yourself on the right side of a tractor trailer, always assume that driver may not see you. And if you assume that and move forward or slow down and get behind him where he can see you, don't hang out in those blind spots. And when you're following the truck, we normally set up a car 65 feet behind the truck. And that represents about 3/4 of a second in travel distance. So if you're following a truck at 65 feet, it looks like a pretty far back, but I can't see you.
Remember the dump truck over on the side?
Yeah.
See it?
Back of it.
You have to lean forward though, don't you?
Yeah.
We have opportunities like this with the kids to share this type of information with them. It's a first-hand learning experience. When you see something hands-on, you tend to grasp it better, and so we hope that these kids here today will go out on the highways and realize when they're beside that large truck, that driver may not see them. And if a driver can't see them, if he changes lane, it can result in a very severe collision.
So that's the training that Walmart was providing some of the schools. So let's take a look at what does it look like for some of these trucks when they try to stop or make these wide turns. So a tractor trailer company came up with this training film for driver's ed programs, and this will show you some of the problems and characteristics of large trucks.
Hello, my name is Ralph Garcia, and I'm a professional truck driver with 37 years experience on the road with 3.5 million miles of safe driving. Today, you're going to have the opportunity to hear firsthand from professional truck drivers how to maneuver around a truck safely. First of all, let's go over some tips before we get started. Never cut in front of a truck. Give us enough room. Second, stay out of the blind spots around a truck. Third, have enough cushion behind us. Don't follow too closely so you have enough time to stop. Also, trucks make wide right turns. Give us enough space to do those turns. And if you break down on the side of the road, make sure you get far enough off the road that you're safe. And last but not least, distracted driving. Don't text and drive. Stay off that phone. Let's get started, and we're going to hear from our drivers.
Hey, I'm Alan Boyd. I've been driving trucks professionally for 35 years. I know I don't look that old, right? Scratch that, don't answer. What I've learned is the right side of this truck is the largest blind spot we have. This blind spot can actually go over 3 lanes wide. I can lose a whole tractor and trailer. So it's very important when you get in this position to get yourself out as quickly as you can. Did you know that 35% of all car-truck related accidents, the car is in the truck driver's blind spot? Well, it's true. And how do you know that you're in the blind spot? In this position, it's very important to make sure you can see that driver's smiling face in the mirror. If you can't see that truck driver's smiling face in the mirror, he can't see you. Remember, when that truck moves over to the left lane to let you off a ramp, that brings you out into this position, and that's okay. Make sure you slow down a little bit, allow the truck time to get back in front of you. That allows everybody to pass on the left where it's a lot safer. Remember to make good decisions when you drive.
Hi, I'm Alfonso Lewis. I've been a professional truck driver for 28 years, have 1.4 million safe driving miles. And today I want to talk to you about the rear blind spot of a tractor trailer. First of all, I want to tell you where I do not want you. I don't want you tailgating me. You know why? If I make a sudden stop, guess where you may end up? It's right here. I don't want you there. One other thing, I'm a big guy and I drive a pretty big truck. If there's an object in the road, I can straddle it. And if I straddle it and it comes out and you don't see it, you will not have time to react. Think about that object as an alligator. You don't want that alligator to bite you. So I want you 20 car lengths behind me where I can see you. If you can see my mirror, you're in a safe spot where I can see you and you can see me. And that's where I want you at.
Hello, my name's Don Biggerstaff. I'm a professional truck driver. I've been in the industry for 37 years and have accumulated 1.4 million safe driving miles. And I'm here today to tell you about one of the blind spots that we have on the truck. The left side, the driver's side. We see you best out of this side from our vantage point in the truck. And this is the side that we want you to pass us on. But I need to make it clear, we do have a small blind spot located about where this car is, right behind the driver's seat in the truck. If you're in this position, we could lose you in our mirrors and not see you. So if you find yourself in this spot beside the truck, we want you to safely maneuver on around us. That keeps us safer and you safer. And really, that's what the Share the Road program is all about.
This is the front end of the truck. The worst thing you could do is cut in front of a truck. Rule of thumb, look in your rear view mirror, and when you can see the whole truck in that mirror, that's the time to come over. That usually puts you 10 car lengths in front of our vehicle. Your car usually weighs 4,000 pounds, and fully loaded, this semi could weigh up to 80,000 pounds. And going 60 miles an hour, it could take the length of a football field and 2 end zones to stop.
So what you're telling me, Ralph, then is that if I'm driving a 4,000 pound car, that'd be 20 times my weight.
That's right.
That'd be like a 200-pound wrestler wrestling a man weighing 4,000 pounds.
Exactly, kind of like me wrestling you.
As a professional driver, I use every means possible to see out of my vehicle. Of course, I don't have the luxury of looking in a rearview mirror like you do in a car, or throwing my arm over the seat and looking at the back windshield. I have to use the tools that's been given me, my windshields and my mirrors, to see what I need to see. That's why this front windshield is so important. It's like my big screen television. It allows me to see what's going on out in front of me. Two other important tools that I have are my mirrors on each side, outside of the truck. I have my right mirror, which allows me to see a narrow path down the right side of my trailer. However, not 2, 3, and 4 lanes over. The mirror on my left-hand side, with head movement, I can see better out of that one, which is the side we want you to pass us on. No matter what I'm doing, I have to focus on my driving. And that's what we want you to do. If we all stay focused on the highway, it'll be a much safer place for all of us.
Distracted driving is just as dangerous as drunk driving. Distractions in your car could be eating, drinking, could be talking to someone, and most common ones are on your phone or texting. Did you know if you travel 60 miles per hour for 6 seconds distracted, that you have actually went the length of a football field? What we want you to do is concentrate on your job, and that's driving.
You know, we had a lot of fun doing this video, and I hope you got the understanding that we're very proud of our record and we're very passionate about safety. And we've interjected some humor to make it fun. However, when you're driving, there is one place that you absolutely must keep your focus, and that's in a construction zone. You know, a construction zone is simply a temporary inconvenience for a major improvement. You know, those guys that are working on that road are working on that road for one reason, and that's to make the highway safer. There's a couple things you need to remember when you're going into a construction zone. Number one, always obey the speed limit. That speed limit is set in place for everybody's safety. Also, the solid white lines are there so that nobody crosses that solid white line. It's very important never to tailgate, and especially not in a construction zone. Because in construction zones, things happen quickly. And the last thing you want is to run into the back of somebody because something happened in front of them. Remember, every one of those construction workers are mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, and they all want the same thing that you and I do. And no matter who you are, whether you drive a truck, drive a car, or work in that construction zone, everybody's goal is to make the most important trip, the trip home, safely.
Okay, hopefully you took away some good pointers from these skilled tractor trailer drivers. They really do take their job very seriously. I know quite a few tractor trailer drivers, and they just always tell me how bad it's getting out on the roadway, where people just don't understand how they maneuver and what they can do and what they can't do, and how frustrated people get with tractor trailers. So have a little bit of patience. Okay, it's very difficult to move these vehicles, not only steering wise, but to get them up to speed. So do not crowd them, do not beep your horn at them, give them some space and some time. Okay, the next thing that I want to talk about is motorcycles. We are getting into warmer weather now, and we do see motorcycles out. And being in Durham, being a college town, we have scooters. Okay, they don't get up to the high speeds of a motorcycle, but they do get up to around 35 miles per hour. Very difficult to see, so there are some characteristics of being around motorcycles that you've got to watch out for. Let's talk about helmets. New Hampshire does not have a mandatory helmet law for anybody that's older than 18. If you're under 18, you need a helmet, okay? You should always have a helmet. I think it's a wise thing to do, and eye protection is not only good for the person in the back riding with you, but the driver or the rider of the motorcycle has to have some type of eye protection. Now, motorcycles go fast. I just clipped this just recently. He was going 185 miles per hour. Okay, that is pretty darn fast. Okay, you're not going to be able to see a car. See a motorcycle that's traveling that fast. It's going to be a blur. So you go to make a lane change, you check your mirror, you think there's nothing there, and all of a sudden this thing just whips right by you. Very, very dangerous. I don't have the lane splitting video. I wanted to show that to you. Maybe I'll try to find it tomorrow. But what lane splitting is where motorcycles come up on the side of a vehicle and where the dotted line is. And when traffic is very heavy going slow, motorcycles will kind of weave in and out of traffic or go in the breakdown lane. We call that lane splitting. You're a motorcycle. You have the same responsibility as an automobile driver. You need to be in your lane, using your hand signals or directionals, doing anything to make yourself seen and to be safe. But a lot of people on motorcycles, they do not. When it comes to crashes, it's probably right down the middle. Who's at fault? Okay. A lot of times people think it's the big bully car that's pushing a motorcycle off the road, or a lot of times older drivers will say, oh, it's those young people in their 20s, and teens going really super fast on motorcycles causing all these problems. It's about equal. It's equal. So don't see that the blame is more so on one side than the other. The thing I want you to take away from here, and this is a question that I believe you may see on the final, is very hard to judge their speed. So you've got to really, really look. Motorcycles are supposed to have their headlights on. So when they're in operation on a roadway, headlights are on. So when you look in your mirrors or look over your shoulder, you can see them more clearly if they've got their headlights on. The other thing is they stop a lot better than you do. They're a lot lighter. Okay, we talked about tractor trailers just a moment ago, going 3 times the distance that an automobile driver goes for stopping. Well, it almost can be the same thing said about the motorcyclist and the driver. A motorcyclist is always going to stop earlier because it's lighter and it has better use of their front brake and their rear brake. One of the problems with motorcycles, though, and we talked about this last night, is that you never know what you're going to encounter out on the roadway. So it could be potholes, it could be roadkill, or it could be a live animal. Take a look at this. Here's a motorcycle rider having an encounter with a deer. I think it's amazing that the motorcyclist didn't get hurt, and I'm surprised that the deer popped right up. Now, when a deer hits a car, it's not going to pop right up. It does some damage to your vehicle, but most of the time with a vehicle hit, it's more substantial to the deer, and it's not as fortunate of surviving it. Left turns are big problems. Write this down. Whenever a car makes a left-hand turn, sometimes that motorcyclist, like we said before, we just can't see them, or we just don't know how fast they're coming towards us. So we assume it's okay. So we pull out in front of them, and then they hit the front of your vehicle and they topple over the top. So be extremely, extremely careful when you know that there's a scooter or a motorcycle coming straight ahead when you're making your left-hand turn. It'd probably be best to wait. I probably wouldn't to start off turning in front of motorcycles until you really get used to seeing how fast they are. Oh, here's the left. Oh, let me go back here. Here's a video I wanted to show you about left turns. After you get your motorcycle's license, and we're going to talk about how to get your motorcycle license in a moment, but one thing about the motorcycle training class is they do everything in a parking lot. So people are watching you from the side of the parking lot, and they can walk up beside cones and watch you, balance the vehicle, the motorcycle, and stop and turn and stuff like that. But they also offer a course, and I forgot what state this is in, but they follow you out on the roadway and they see how you drive. Now, like when you're driving with me, a lot of times you'll hear me say, you're too far to the right, get yourself more centered in your lane. Watch your speed. You're going too fast. Brake a little bit before the turn. So what they've done is they've taken a motorcycle instructor, and he follows the student, and they have a mic and a headphone inside the helmet so they can converse back and forth. So here's a little clip of the instructor teaching a motorcycle rider how to be more safe at an intersection where a car could be turning left in front of them. I thought this was pretty cool that they're teaching them how to stay away from the center of the road, go further to the right. So kind of watch this training. So
okay, let's get in the left lane.
So right now he's positioned where he needs to be. So you're more apt to see a motorcycle now in your
So
left
let
side
this truck
mirror.
go ahead.
Now as he gets closer to
Yeah,
the
leave
truck,
lots of room.
get to an intersection, notice he's going to start moving more towards the middle. So he wants to make sure.
Okay, good. So we got a truck up ahead. Okay, shoulder check, good.
See how
Moving
he moves
away.
to the right because he thinks that
And then
see the
shoulder
large
check
truck
back.
is turning left. He gets away from where the
Perfect.
truck is turning. So you stay to the left until you come to the intersection, and then you move way over to
Yes.
the dotted line.
That move will save your life.
Because right now he could probably be hidden by that large truck. So any cars that are coming to the intersection from the opposite direction, they don't know that the motorcyclist is there. So that's why he's moving more to the right.
Yeah, so get ready to do it
backing
again.
off a little bit. See, now he moves way over to the right, so the car sees him a little bit.
Excellent.
Then he goes back to his regular position. So that is why training is so important, because a lot of times people read that, they just don't understand it, or they don't put it in practice. But here you got people, in your ear telling you what to do. Moves to the right, ready for the vehicle.
And back. Ah, that's awesome. Perfect.
So that's how they do it in some states. Now, the motorcycle class that we have, let's see if we've got it coming up here. They're going to start testing. Following distance should be a little bit more because they can stop a lot quicker. They're constantly changing position, as we just saw in that video, because they want to be seen. So don't move too close next to them. They need that same space that you would give a car. And a lot of times they're moving around in their lane because there's things on the road that would be a problem to them, like railroad crossings, some of the cracks in the road, potholes. So they're constantly moving from side to side. And of course, weather is going to create problems. And as you can see, even though this is March, we still have warm days in the 50s and 60s. So if you're really, got gloves and leathers on and stuff like that, people like to be on their motorcycle. So don't think you're not going to see them this time of year, because they're out. They are. Just got to be looking for them. And these are the different areas: crosswinds, road surface, railroad crossing, stuff like that you got to be worried about. Let's take a look at the motorcycle class. We have two classes here in New Hampshire. We have a novice and an experienced course. There's the phone number that I put up here if anybody's interested in doing it. Actually, I think I may even take one this year, although my wife's not real excited about me doing it. She poisoned my kids when I was younger, telling them that daddy was going to die on a motorcycle. So I never bought a motorcycle when I was first married. I rode motorcycles when I was in junior high and high school, but mostly out on trails and things like that. But on a roadway, I have never had my motorcycle license. And I said, hey, that might be a good idea to not only talk about it in driver's ed, but to experience it and see it firsthand. So there's a chance I may take it. I've only heard good things about it. I do have a clip from a driver's motorcycle rider's course from Pennsylvania, which is kind of based upon what we do here in New Hampshire. It's the same type of thing, going over the same type of material. And the nice thing about getting your license through the program is that you don't have to go to the DMV to get tested. So when you get a motorcycle license, there's two ways to approach it. One, you can make an application just like you're going to do with your driver's license after you complete the class tomorrow. You make a scheduled appointment to go to the DMV, and they watch you go through cones and stop and accelerate in a parking lot area. And after, 15, 20 minutes, maybe a half hour, they deem you, okay to ride a motorcycle here in New Hampshire. That's by making an application. Or you can do the training, get a discount on your motorcycle insurance like we saw last night because you took a training program, and they provide you the license right there. You bypass what the state does. So these courses are state certified, and at the end, you become a licensed motorcycle rider. And there's just going to be a designation on your license. So you don't have to go back in. I think you just kind of, they have you mark something on the back of your original license. But here's the motorcycle class that they have in Pennsylvania.
We really had fun taking the class. It was something that my husband and I did together, which made it even more special.
I thought, boy, this is going to be, why am I going to go do this? I've been riding so long, there's nothing I can, what are they going to teach me or what are they going to show me? And I was very shocked when I actually took it, and I learned quite a bit from that.
We got the club together and filled up a class, and, in varying level of experience from people who've been riding 30 and 40 years. And every one of them, when we got done with the class, was worthwhile.
For my family, the very first step of getting into motorcycling was signing up for the motorcycle safety course. Because even before we went out to invest money in buying a motorcycle, it was important for us to learn the intricacies of riding the bike, and you certainly want to be prepared for the road risks.
Since taking that course and learning at least that one technique alone, it's probably saved my life at least 15 times.
I think that there's just as much value in the classroom as there was as physically being on the bike. So when you go out and you get on the bike, all that mental stuff is already in there.
The instructors were very friendly, and they didn't make you feel uncomfortable or weird that you hadn't ridden before. They just eased you right into it. They have you just kind of walking the bikes along as they're on, and you start going around in circles, then you progress into weaving in and out between cones.
And the instructor stood in front of the cones, and at the last moment, he would point left or right, and you had to do like an evasive move. It was just that last split second which way to turn. And if you make a mistake, then you learn from it.
He actually threw it was a piece of block on the ground, like a 2x4, and you actually, instead of going around it, go right through it. It just teaches you that if something's on the road and you're going like 55, 60, there's no sense of trying to go around it. You can't, because you ain't gonna have time to look left and right. Just go right straight through it.
You're constantly scanning ahead, and that's one of the things they teach you in the course. You are looking at the car in front of you, but you're actually looking further down. You're watching those intersections on your side. And these are some of the things that I never thought about, but the course talked about.
And all of a sudden, I start pulling around the curve, and another guy comes straight over, and if I would not have been aware, and again, this came from the course of being aware of everything that's happening around you, and I was able to stop. But if I'd have kept going, I would probably be a wood ornament at this point.
The maneuvering technique I did learn from the course did help me last year with the accident that I was in, that someone pulled out in front of me. And I was able to maneuver the bike to get around mostly, but the bike did clip the bumper a little bit. But still, I was able to get out unscratched and still walk away.
We were going through a small town, going 30 miles an hour, put my signal on to slow down, to stop, and the bike behind me slammed into me. The first thing I felt was this jerk, And then I heard the instructor's voice saying, hold on, keep the front tires straight. Slowly apply your brakes, both the front and the rear brakes slowly, and bring the bike to a slow stop. And that's exactly what happened.
You think you know about bikes, but you do not know about bikes until you take the safety course. You do not know about all the different things that can come at you. You don't pay attention to that when you're just riding without the knowledge. So it can definitely save your life. It's a lifetime lesson that costs nothing.
So I really like the motorcycle class. I'm a big proponent of people getting well trained before they get out into the road. So it doesn't necessarily mean motorcycles on the roadway that can create problems for automobile drivers. It could be the bicycle. And being in a college town, we know that we have a lot of people on skateboards, rollerblades, bicycles, scooters. So we've got a lot of people that are very hard to see now. There are a couple things listed here that I want you to underline. One of them could come up on the final. When passing a bike, every driver of a vehicle shall exercise due care by leaving reasonable and prudent distance between the vehicle and the bike. This is what I want you to remember. It starts with 3 feet. You should never, ever crowd a bicycle on a roadway. You have to miss the bike from your side mirror to their handlebars. Has to be 3 feet. Now, in speed zones faster than 30, then we've got to increase an extra foot for every 10 miles per hour. So if you're on 108, 155, where it goes 40 to 50 miles per hour, then we're going to have to do 4 or 5 feet. Now, if there is a car coming towards us and we don't feel comfortable getting close to the yellow line or going over the yellow line, then we must wait for the oncoming vehicle to go by, and then we go around the cyclist. So that's called separating. You separate two problems. Bicycle is a problem. Oncoming traffic is a problem. So if there's no room, you must wait. You must wait. Now, coming around a corner or coming just up over a hill, what you want to do is the term compromise. That means you're giving 2 to 3, or actually 3 feet to the bicyclist, 3 feet to the oncoming car. So equal distance to both problems, not knowing which one's going to maybe be a bigger situation for you to handle. Going to go through pedestrian safety. I'll go back one slide just because this is important. Under 16, you must wear protective headgear on a pedal bike. And then every bicycle, and this is the same time frame that you put your headlights on. So that's why I wanted to come back to this, because this was new. They just implemented this about 2-3 years ago. When you're a bicyclist and it's getting dark, so a half hour after sunset to a half hour before sunrise, these are the time frames that you have your headlights on. You have to have something besides reflectors on your bike. So you need a vest, you need a jacket, you need a helmet strip. I don't know if the police would give you a hard time if you didn't. I think more or less if you had a situation where you got hit, then they're going to probably say, well, you're partly to blame because you weren't following code. You weren't having enough reflective material to be seen. So that's probably why the car hit you. So, but I don't think they're going to pull you over and say, hey, you don't have, a helmet strip on or a jacket with that is reflective. I think it's a good thing to do. Pedestrian safety is huge. I think it's one of the number one problems that I have with students driving around the college campus is that we cannot understand what pedestrians are doing. So I would say to you, always side on caution. Think about what you think could happen badly, and that means walk in front of you. But you do not want to slam on your brakes just to miss the pedestrian to get hit from behind and then maybe get pushed into the pedestrian. So look for your crosswalks, look for your alleys, look for your driveways where there are people walking. Be extra cautious when you think the person could be blind. So you're looking for the cane, you're looking for the guide dog, anything an indicator that they may have issues trying to cross the street. So how do we handle blind people? The last sentence is really the only thing I want you to be concerned about. The person who is blind listens to hear that the vehicle has stopped, okay? With hybrid cars now, it's very difficult for a blind person to hear the vehicle. Try to stay back at least a distance of 10 feet. Now, if they have a guide dog, I think guide dogs are getting better and they understand, the motion as well as hearing cars. And it's amazing that dogs can do this. But they are trying to protect their owner, and they're pulling them back onto the sidewalk and away from the crosswalk if they think that their owner could be struck by a vehicle. It's amazing that dogs know that the cars are coming in what speed. So what pedestrians should do, they should use crosswalks, look both directions before crossing, walk on the left side facing traffic if they're walking for any distance, if there's not a crosswalk. Of course, use the walk and do not walk signals at intersections. And by the way, if there's a person that's crossing at one of these intersections and there's a do not walk and you have the right of way, don't think because you got a green light, oh, there's a pedestrian, I got to stop for him. No, they're waiting for the walk signal. So don't try to slow down and stop unless they really do walk out in front of you. But I know some people, they get so spooked, oh, I got to stop for every pedestrian at a crosswalk. They don't realize that a lot of times they're just waiting for the walk signal. They should wear light-colored clothing, reflective material, carry a light, and limited access highways should never be walked upon unless it's an emergency. Let me take a look. Here's a public service announcement for pedestrian crossing.
Hi, I'm Michelle Yeoh. As an actress, I've been in many dangerous situations on screen, but I always get to walk away. In real life, though, most people don't. So when you're walking near traffic, follow these safe steps and help save lives. Drivers and pedestrians share the responsibility of keeping themselves and others safe. Your eyes and ears are your best safety tools. Avoid using electronic devices that distract your attention. Stay on sidewalks. If there is no footpath, walk on the edge of the road facing oncoming traffic. At a road crossing, stop, look both ways, listen, and then cross. We all have a role in road safety. Follow these safe steps and play your part. For more road safety advice, visit safesteps.com.
So those are safety tips for pedestrians. The move over law, this is something that's in every single state, so I do want you to write this down. In every state, that if there's a fire truck, EMT, police car that's pulled somebody over or dealing with a situation, you need to get as far away from that situation as you possibly can. So if there are 2 lanes, you need to make a lane change. If there are cars that are next to you, then basically you just move as far as you can to the left, scooting a little bit into the other person's lane, but you can't crowd them out of their lane. But this is what it looks like. You'd be surprised. This is a video clip of a police officer being struck because someone didn't leave out of their lane. They got too close.
Every year, thousands of law enforcement officers are injured or killed by passing vehicles on our nation's roads and highways. These tragedies don't have to happen. Whenever an emergency vehicle has its lights on, move over away from the emergency vehicle. If you can't change lanes because of traffic, or if you're traveling on a 2-lane road, slow down at least 20 miles per hour below the posted speed limit.
Help protect the officers who protect you. Please move over, and if you can't, then slow down. It's the law.
So that's basically the last thing that we need to talk about. So reduce your speed. I would cut my speed in half when I see that there's a police car or an ambulance or a fire truck up ahead. If I see that there's someone out because there's maybe a scene of a crash, someone directing traffic because they've got to push you into a different lane because they're only working one lane at a time. So watch their directions, hand signals. And like I said before, vacate any lane wholly. That means leaving your lane completely. Wholly means there's no part of your car in your original lane. If it's partly blocked, then you kind of get close to the other lane and give, like we said, compromise distance and give a wide berth without endangering people or emergency vehicles. So we just saw that clip. Distracted driving. This is what we're going to cover tomorrow. We're going to be talking probably for about 25 minutes to a half hour about distracted driving. There's a couple clips I want to show you, and I want to kind of explain things about distracted driving. I honestly believe it's probably one of the most important subjects that we have, and it's kind of bad that we don't have more information in the state manual or even in the textbook about distracted driving, because for young people, it's worse than alcohol and drugs, because everybody has a phone, and everybody thinks I'm not that bad, or I'm doing it in situations that I can control it, and we reason away what is happening. But the facts do show that people's driving deteriorates quite a bit when you're not focusing on the roadway. And because we think we're looking at our phone for a brief amount of time, that we regain our position, our speed, and then we're back to being a normal driver. But what you'll see from some of the stories and the videos that we'll see tomorrow, it only takes 5 seconds, and something really, really bad can happen, and it can change. Like we said with alcohol, bad decisions can change the course of your life. So hitting another car, hitting another pedestrian, it's really sad seeing stories where people have lost loved ones, all because of distracted driving. And we know that people that hit other people while drunk, they've got an alcohol problem or drug a problem. But when you think about distracted, come on. I mean, you're only distracted for a short period of time. You weren't distracted a half hour ago when you were driving. And if you didn't look at your phone, you're not going to be distracted, 5-10 minutes after you get by this intersection or whatever. So that one moment in that intersection, some real bad stuff can happen. So we've basically covered every single topic that the state wanted me to go over, and I hope that I explained it well enough to you. If you could just put in the comments section right now, I want you to give me an idea of what was your favorite subject to learn about. Okay, so right now on the YouTube comments, I want to see everybody. This is going to be something that we do right before I give you your homework assignment, your last one, which will be to watch a 20-minute review video that I did with questions. And I will tell you right now, if you watch this review question and write down your answers, what I'd like you to do is to watch it, pause it when I give you the question, try to answer it on your own, and then I'm going to give you the correct answer within about 4 to 5 seconds. So I believe it's about 17 minutes long. I don't know how many questions, 70, 80 questions. If you do really well on it, then you'll probably do well tomorrow. If you don't do well on it, maybe make a little note. I got question 13 wrong, 35 wrong. Those are things that you want to kind of brush up on tomorrow sometime when you've got some free time to study for your final. So look through your notes, look through the manual. I would say that if you do well on the midterm, you should do pretty well on the final. It's all going to be multiple choice. If you have any questions during the final, I'll be around to answer that. Why am I still on this? Why am I talking to the camera? So I appreciate for those of you that stayed on. I see there's only 15 right now, so this is why I want you to put comments. So road rage, thank you, Oscar. So put down the subject that that you really kind of was of an interest to you, or something that you really learned. So I want to see who's watching right now. So I can't tell. And I also want you to sign out like you normally do, that you're leaving, so I know who's been here the longest. So highway driving, thank you. Road rage, okay, thanks. I think I'm gonna wait for a bit to see who's gonna sign in here. Subject on signs, I like that subject. That's one of my favorites to teach on. So I'm gonna wait for people to leave a comment on what subject they really got a lot from, they really liked. And then right after I sign off, go to the Facebook page, and I will give you the link. I'll give you the link to YouTube questions that I gave for you. So if you're still on, basically, you're going to have a better chance of doing better than those that have left. So all my good students, I can almost tell who I knew was going to still be on watching. I know this is not easy. I know it's difficult because it's not Zoom. The reason I don't like Zoom is I get a thought in my head that I want to say, and then if I'm looking at people moving around at their computer or raising their hand, I think I wouldn't have the fluid conversation that I have right now with explaining things. So, okay, I think just about everybody that I thought would answer questions did. So I appreciate that. So that is it for tonight. Like I said, go to the remote Facebook page. I will put the link to the YouTube video that I did. If you can't get it on the remote Facebook page, I'll try to make a copy link to it and I'll text it to you, but you've got to let me know that you want it. So answer the questions and let me know how you do. So that way I can measure it up against what you do with your final. Once you've completed the final, it's going to tell you yes or no. If you still have outstanding homework to do for me, you still got to get that in. But if everything else is done, and I think I'm getting a lot of you done, that you get your paperwork. And I'll talk about how to get that paperwork tomorrow once we get ready to take the final. But I don't want to talk about it right now. But that's it. That's it for tonight. So check back in about 2 or 3 minutes, and I will have the link to the Facebook page for the review questions to help you review for the final tomorrow. So study hard, good luck, and I appreciate you putting the time and effort into this driver's ed program. I really seen a dramatic change in everybody's driving. I'm really happy with this class, at least most of you. There's about 2 or 3 of you that really slacking off, but you're not online right now either. All right, have a good night, and we'll see you tomorrow at 7:30.